so happy each one of you are here because Doug would love it. And I just had this little poem that I got from my mom's Bible when she passed away. And I made a copy, and I just want you people to share and have it in your Bibles to share with your mates one day. One or the other must leave, one or the other must stay. One or the other must grieve, that is the forever the way. That is the vow that was sworn, faithful till death do us part, braving what had to be borne, hiding the ache in the heart. One howsoever adored, first must be summoned away. That is the will of the Lord. One or the other must stay. Now, no, this was God's will, and he died loving his family. I'm so thankful for you. Thanks for coming.
In your books, Because He Lives, I Could Face Tomorrow, number 182. We'll see all 182. God sent His Son, they called Him Jesus. Lift it up on that first verse now. God sent His Son, they called Him Jesus. He came to love.
more, so we're going to get better and better. I like the energy team. All right. I'm going to read Psalm 23. It's very famous. I'm sure you've all heard of it. But we shared it with Doug routinely during his last week or so. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me into the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
Amen.
Isaiah chapter 26, verse 4. Trust in the Lord forever, because in the Lord himself is an everlasting rock.
You can stay there, Jeff. Son-in-laws.
We got this.
Yeah, all right. So John 3:16. For God so loved the world in his way, he gave his one and only Son, so that everyone who believes in him will not perish, but have eternal life.
John 11:25, Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me, even if he dies, will live.
Let's close with the Lord's Prayer. Our
Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever.
All right, you want to tee it off?
Yep. Yeah. So,
And I just want to say, I think are we fun hats or shun fat? What are we now? I think the shun hat family singers could really go on tour. The Von Trapps have nothing on this group.
I like what you came up with, the half nuts.
It's a half nuts. Just make sure it's plural.
So, and instead of having sorry if I start crying, it is sadness, but it's also joy, because we were told when we were making these arrangements that if we didn't have joy, we wouldn't have sadness. And we had so much joy with him. So if I bawl my way through this, you're just going to have to bear with me. And I wasn't smart enough to write mine. Linda wrote hers, but I'm going to sort
You're
of...
going to read Linda's?
Yeah. I really should.
We might trade things.
Yeah. We wanted everyone, if they felt comfortable, after Linda and I and Steve and Jeff and the kids, the grandkids, say something. If anybody wants to share memories, feel free to. No pressure whatsoever. But we wanted to give you the option to talk. I'm going to do like a bullet point presentation. I'm an engineer by degree. I'm not good at public speaking, and I'm not good at telling stories, as the kids all know, because they usually last like 10 seconds and they're no good. So I'll start off by saying my dad was an all-in dad. He devoted his life to Linda and I, and he passed that on to his grandkids too. He was always present, wanted to be there. He wasn't a man of many words, but he was always doing things. And so I just wanted to share with you what he gave me personally. First of all, love of sports. It doesn't matter what sport it was, my dad loved it. He got me involved in baseball in 1976. I started watching Cubs games with him and Chris Hanger. I can tell you the starting lineup of the Cubs if you want. In 1976, we watched so many games with WGN. And he also took us, it was a special treat every year, he took Linda and I and my mom to a baseball game at Wrigley Field, so that was always special. I will tell, and I hope I'm not sharing your thunder here, but the one game was sort of funny. I think we were playing the New York Mets, and there broke out, we were sitting in right field on the main level, and a fight broke out with some people in that area. I think they were Mets fans, and I think someone was taunting them from Chicago, probably. And mom was so funny. She wanted Dad to go in and stop the fight, so she like pushes him towards the fight. He's like, Martha, I'm not big enough to do this. I am not a big person, and I cannot do anything. But anyway, that made us laugh. But yeah, Mom wanted him to save the day, but he wasn't going to save it. He also was a diehard Chicago Bears fan, and he got me that involved in about 78. And if you guys know, in 1978, Walter Payton was one of our star running backs, and I loved Walter Payton. I mean, I talked about Walter Payton all the time. Well, he wanted to buy me a jersey, but Mom wasn't sure I should be wearing a Walter Payton jersey. So Dad finally bought me a jersey, I think about 10 to 15 years ago, and I still have that jersey. I wear it not so often because the Bears don't do that well, but I still have it. He also was into basketball. I don't know if any of you know, but he played basketball, I think, in middle school and junior, high school a bit. And he made his own backboard in our backyard, and so Linda and I would shoot. She was much better than me. She was really good at pig and horse and stuff, and I sort of just threw it up there, but anyway. Cross country and track were his sports, although I didn't run, and Linda could share her experiences with running. I did take up running post swimming, and it pretty much was my lifelong sport until a few months ago. But it kept my sanity growing up, raising the kids and the family, and really appreciate that. And he was an excellent cross country and track runner. Many of you know that. Golfing was another love that he had. I don't remember how often he golfed when we were kids. He usually was home every day at 4 p.m., but he was a golfer, and one of the things he wanted to do before he passed this earth was to get a hole-in-one, which we are all wearing that hole-in-one shirt today. It was October, I'm not sure the exact date, but it was October of 2020 that he got his hole-in-one with Steve and was just Steve.
There were
Okay.
two other witnesses, so it wasn't, you didn't pay me off.
Anyway, we played a lot of, I'll move on because I know I'm taking a lot of time. We played softball in the backyard. We used the trees as the bases. That was another great memory. He taught us how to play tennis by hitting the tennis ball against the brick of our 1247 house, which Mom didn't like because the china always clanged when we hit the ball. So we eventually had to stop that. Yeah. We always had bicycles. He liked to bicycle ride. He rode his bicycle up until we moved from the Villages. We took him on one outing here, but it didn't go so well, so we didn't bike after that. But he did ride his bicycle in the Villages. And finally, swimming. So, a couple stories here with swimming. I guess Dad thought I had a natural aptitude for swimming, and so we took swimming lessons when we were little, but he bribed me, I think he bribed me, Mom, you can correct me if I'm wrong, to jump off the diving board to get a Barbie camper. And I did succeed to get a Barbie camper. The next thing, he found out about the age group swim team at our high school. And I didn't want to go. I was very shy at that point. I know you guys probably don't think I'm very shy now, but I was shy when I was younger. And so he went with me to that first practice and sat in the balcony, which was super hot at that time. And he sat through the entire first practice. And I said it was okay. And he's like, can you go back again? I'm like, yeah, but you're going to have to sit in the balcony every time. And he sat diligently for a year. At every single swim practice. 3 days a week for a couple hours after working all day, he sat at my swim practice because I was so shy and didn't want to not have someone there. So that's just sort of the type of guy he was. And the last thing about swimming, and Linda might remember this, he used to play John Philip Sousa. If any of you know who that is, he makes band marches. He used to play John Philip Sousa for Linda and I before swim meets to psych us up. Kind of scary. Sort of scary. Oh shoot, I lost my notes. I wanted to focus a little bit, I'm going to stop here in a second. I want to focus a little bit on organization because my dad was extremely organized. He had notebook upon notebook of every swim time we ever had, every running race she probably ran, every race that he did. He had binders in the back room down in Homewood, and he recorded everything. And another thing was his sock numbering. So, if any of you have ever experienced my dad's socks, he had athletic socks that he numbered both ones and ones and twos so that he could always match his socks. And I have a story with that, but I'll come back to it. And he also did it with his dress socks. He put colored thread, he sewed colored thread on the top of his dress socks so that he could match his orange threads, his green threads, his blue threads for his brown and blue socks. So very, very organized. And the funny story is I was co-oping in St. Louis during college. It was around 1987. I came home for the weekend and I forgot my athletic socks. So he goes down to his very organized backroom dresser, gets out a pair of ones or twos or whatever you gave me, and I used them, and by accident I took them back to St. Louis, but I took two different socks. Oh. I took like a 1 and a 2, and so I called them up on the phone and I let them know, I got the 1, I got the 2. I'll get them to you next time I visit, so don't worry about the 1s and the 2s. He also carried a lot of index cards, as we all know, in his front pocket. In fact, well, everybody knows he used to put his golf times on there. He used to record what he had to do for the day. He always had his shirt with his cards. And most recently, he had an index card next to him, and he had 3 notes on it. It was his last index card. It said, the Oaks, Keys, and something about, I forgot the third thing, but basically the Oaks is where he lived. In the Memory Care Center was the name of where he lived. He always was worried about the keys because he thought the car was still around. And the third thing, I can't remember what was on there, but anyway.
Something, a task.
He was still
Door.
using his index cards
Yeah.
up until the last week. And let's see. Oh, he loved to draw maps. He hand drew every map instead of using, obviously we use MapQuest and Google and all that, but he hand drew every map to every swim meet that we were going to every thing that we got to go to camping, wherever it was. He hand drew all maps. He had coffee cans labeled with every single nail and every single bolt in the garage. He saved 100 coffee cans and labeled them. And then he built his own dresser compartments. We just, when we removed his dresser from the memory care room, we opened up the drawers and we knew, and there was all the compartments he had built back when. Okay, and then I'll wrap this up with working with wood. So if you saw his urn over here, it's a combination of maple and walnut, which he loved to work with. But he built the shed in our backyard at 1247, where we stored our bikes and the lawnmower. He built our basketball backboard, which was really funny because it was a big, huge square. It didn't really look like a basketball backboard, but it worked. He built the whole stereo shelving and desk unit down in our family room. Many of you might remember he had his speakers and the turntable downstairs and the speakers upstairs, but he built that whole shelving and desk unit. And he built his own car top carriers, which is another whole thing, but we camped with car top carriers, and yeah, oh my gosh, I can just go on and on about that, but anyway, and then he built birdhouses later up in northern Wisconsin, and he built birch candlestick holders. Some of you might have gotten that. He built
Everybody got reindeer.
and everybody got, and he built reindeer, and did he build the snowmen? I thought he built some snowmen. I might have.
Yeah.
And then lastly, he built my girls picket fences and picket nightstands that they used in their bedrooms until they left, practically. And that was really, he brought those all the way down from Wisconsin for the girls to Alabama, and then we moved them to Florida. And lastly, outdoor activities. My dad loved being outdoors. One of the reasons we decided to do it this way because he loved living on the lake and he loved fires and everything, and it's a little hot. We'll see if we get a bonfire tonight, but he loved camping, he loved canoeing, he loved skiing, ice skating. He took us ice skating, hiking, and boating, and we had a wonderful experience going across the United States several times, camping the whole way. Linda and I don't camp like that anymore, but we'd always get to stay in a hotel the first night out, that night back in, but he took us camping across, and we got to experience so much. We saw so many national parks and monuments and so on, and where Custer fought his battle, that was a big one for him. But anyway, yeah, so I know mine's not very organized, but I just wanted to share some of the things that I remembered about him. And lastly, I want to talk just real quickly about a few sayings that he had for us. When we were wanting to get our ears pierced, he told us if God meant you to have holes in your earlobes, he would have put them there. So he made us wait until we were 13, and then we got to go do that. He also, when he was skiing and when he was on a ski lift, he had a fanny pack full of snacks, which he pulled out on the ski lift all the time, and he always said, "I'm in heaven." And I know that today that he's in heaven, and he's probably, hopefully, skiing and golfing and biking and running and doing whatever he wants up there, and looking down fondly on the fact that we're all together today. And I thank you all from the bottom of my heart for being here and for supporting my mom and my sister and I and our family, Steve and Jeff and the kids, through this really tough transition. But he was a great guy, and as I said, he was an all-in dad. He lived his life for us, and I appreciate that. You go.
Okay, so this is interesting because Karen and I were jotting down our memories. And I said, start a list in your phone as you think of things and just keep adding to it.
She took it
And
literally.
she's like, should we compare notes so we don't repeat? And I'm like, I think we should just wing it. And interestingly, you'll hear some repetition, but not a lot. So it's kind of cool. I think it'll be nice. So bear with me. I'm gonna mostly read this, you guys, because I'm not a public speaker. So the story goes, when I was born, and as a baby, my dad wasn't real fond of taking care of me. I was fussy, but boy, did he make up for it throughout my childhood. As you know, I grew up camping, and although I don't remember it, I believe my first time was at 6 months. My parents brought the crib mattress and strapped me to it. I guess I didn't know any different. Then around 18 months, on another camping adventure, I almost fell into the campfire, but thanks to Dad's quick hands, he caught me. Childhood memories consisted of learning to ride my bike, baseball in the backyard, Cubs games, building igloos, sledding, tobogganing, skiing, and camping. My most memorable trips were the two-week trips where we drove out to California camping and seeing almost every state park. And my first ski trip out west to Breckenridge in 7th grade where it snowed every day. Sorry, Aunt Karen, or Karen and Aunt Lou, you broke your ankles. My dad jokingly called Karen and I Butch and Fred, since he didn't have sons. We always joked back, but you have 2 athletic daughters. Every time I tried something new, I would say, I don't think I'm gonna like this. And my dad would say, just try it, you might like it. And he was always right about that. He was my biggest cheerleader, always telling me before cross-country, track, and swim meets to do my best. And after, no matter how well I performed, he always said, great job. He was always a timer at our swim meets. We traveled all over, which gave us a lot of family time together. He rarely missed a sporting event, but he did miss my sophomore year track conference due to work travel. I won the half mile, and I kind of think I did it. I was extra motivated because he wasn't there. As a kid, I loved when he showed slideshows in our dark family room of all our trips. I loved his magic tricks and him playing the saxophone. Watching old Western movies on a weekend afternoon with our cowboy hats on, eating soup always makes me smile. We are kind of quirky when we're together. Dad loved the West and the mountains. Every time we were out there, I would sit in the front seat and enjoy the adventure. He never let weather stop us from where we wanted to be. From driving through a blizzard to Michigan Tech, to putting chains on our tires on the side of the road in Colorado, to camping in the rain, wind, snow, and heat. When I left for college, my mom's Christmas letter said they were about to be empty nesters, and his reply was, we are not birds. The morning of my wedding, we went on a run together. When he walked me down the aisle at our wedding, he told me, you're a good kid. Adult memories consisted of Bear Lake fun, from boat rides to snowmobiling to ice skating and campfires. Then off to the villages for pool time, pickleball, bocce, golf cart rides, dancing at the square, and golf. I loved to golf with Dad because he never gave advice unless I asked. I enjoyed playing in the villages. I loved seeing him happy and active there with my mom. I think we're on the last page, guys. Visits to DG to see the boys' activities was always of interest to him. He loved his Corona in the swivel chair in his V-neck white t-shirt while watching sports. He always joined me in a glass of wine. We always did our best to be together at Christmas. He loved my mom's beans and cookies. In the last decade, he was laughing and joking till the end. I would tell him, I'm gluten-free, or I live in Arizona. And he would say, is that right? Which I thought was a cute way of him saying, I don't remember. He always knew how much I loved him. He told me when I was a young adult after church one day, crisis is not the time to find faith, but the time to use the faith you already have. My dad was fun, laughed a lot, worked hard, gave great advice, and loved his family. I will forever cherish the memories of love. I was one lucky kid.
I guess. All right. I gotta say, it was kind of funny standing up here looking at everyone, like holding your thing. It was like I was looking at 40
I know.
Dougs. That's all I saw was the back of her pages, and there's a picture of Doug looking at me. Oh, that's funny. All right, well, I'm gonna sit down here and get comfortable. What would Doug do right now? He would not be too serious. So as was shared, he was a man of few words, but he was always thinking. I too remember his handwritten notes everywhere, like how to reprogram the VCR. And he kept them forever, like long after technology had moved on by 20, 30 years, there was still, how do you use your AM radio kind of thing. And, he was just a true engineer. He accepted his son-in-laws in spite of their immature selves. And thankfully, he didn't call us Barbie and Hillary. I guess he kind of respected us that much.
We've come a long way, Steve.
Yeah, we're on our way. But I'm sure my pack, I first met him. He was like, he was this big tall guy, and I'm sure my Packers loyalty drove him nuts, or half nuts. But good thing we met in 1991 when both teams were really, really bad. They were awful. And the Packers were zero threat to the Bears franchise. But I always remember him having that Walter Payton running photo. I think it was like in the bathroom, and they kind of moved on into a den, but it was Walter Payton running against the Indianapolis Colts, right? So I just remember that much. One winter, in December of 1991, Karen and I took Doug to Soldier Field to see the Detroit Lions play the Chicago Bears. And I know it's hard, but the Bears lost. But I just remember how cold it was, because this was before they renovated it. So they didn't have like anything to knock down the wind coming off the lake. And we were just so cold. But the highlight was we got to see Barry Sanders play in his prime. Mm-hmm. And he just cut up the Bears on frozen turf. And we just talked about that the whole way home. One, how cold it was. And two, wow, did you see that Barry Sanders? So that was fun. We also went to some other football games that people might mention, but that was fun. As Karen mentioned, Cubs games. He was happy to be there. And I think it stirred up 50 to 70 years of memories for him. His last game, we went and we sat in the left field bleachers. It was the summer of the World Series, but we're walking in and we go by this guy. He's a pretty big guy. We're walking outside the park and we say, "Hey Doug, you know who that was?" "Oh no, he looked familiar." "That was Ryan Sandberg." "What? That was Ryan Sandberg?" "Hey, it is Ryan Sandberg." The gears were still turning in 2016, but it was just kind of cute how he, Anyway, it was a good memory at a night game. He was one of the last examples of corporate commitment and hard work at Ford, but it drove him nuts. By the end, he had enough. But in '92, one of his last years, he took us on a tour, and all the guys loved it. Let's see. So this week, I was using my chainsaw to cut up logs because we had a big flood, and I thought, boy, Doug would love to be out here chopping wood. The hole in one? I think every time I golfed with that man, he wore blue shorts with a red shirt. Am I wrong? Am I wrong? Has anyone ever golfed with Doug that he did not wear some variation of that outfit? It was like his code, right? And if he didn't wear that, I'd be like, where's Doug? Yeah, when he hit his hole in one, it was pretty special. He didn't even know it went in until like, hey Doug, pick it up. Like he didn't care about anything or anyone. He was kind of a no BS kind of guy, right? So towards the end, Ethan would be out there with us, and I'm sure a lot of the guys and gals here golfed with him, and he just didn't care. He would hit a ball, and he'd go out there and he'd just start playing someone else's ball. He didn't care, and our mantra was just go with it. Any one of us could hit that hole in one, we would let him have it. But it was fun. He, as we all know, he liked to drink beer, V-neck t-shirt, sometimes with a top button on top, grouching at something that just happened in sports. And up to the very end, he was always offering people a beer. When he'd come into the apartment, can I get you a beer? And it was like, if Doug's offering a beer, we'll bring a beer. Sense of humor, he was usually on the laughing side, but I always remember him laughing until he started to cough, right? He'd be clearing his throat, so that was fun. Yep, so I guess the last conversation we had was about Willie Mays. So, what did we do?
It's okay.
We love Mickey Mantle, Walter Payton, Willie Mays, and Ernie Banks. They're all together.
Oh, yeah. That's right. They're good people. Yeah.
So maybe they're like having a Field of Dreams thing,
I hope so. Yeah.
That's all I got.
Yeah.
Good job, Steve.
Good job.
Oh, yeah. I'm gonna stand so you don't have to look at my back. And my hairy neck I haven't shaved. Well, I think some of our stories might overlap a little bit here, Steve.
All right.
How was that? The
We'll make them
sisters,
better.
the sisters,
Embellish more than I
yeah,
do.
the sisters' stories didn't overlap, but we overlap. I don't know. Go figure. So this is just kind of like a running history. I kind of sort of did this chronological, but we'll go with it. So my first memory of Doug, this is gonna sound so bizarre, is steak. You have steak you cook? Yeah. So I never had steak as a kid, in my house. I started dating Linda, and they have steak every other night. So I'm I started inviting myself over for dinner. And I think Doug and Martha are like, is he gonna leave? Is he not gonna leave?
It's not like the daughter-in-law here. I'll stick around and see where it goes.
I could just picture him coming in and out of the back door on Birch Road, going in and out, and I'm like, this is heaven. But your refrigerator, not so much. And the other memory was Doug always coming home after work, going straight on a run, which I thought that by itself was I'm okay, I'm impressed with that. And then he'd throw a beer down. And it wasn't sipping. I mean, he pounded a beer. And I'm like, this guy's a dude.
Put him on Ouchway.
Yes.
This next, and I'll try and keep this story as short as possible, and it's not really popular with Linda. So my parents, Doug and Martha, my brother who was living in Colorado, we all planned a ski trip out to Colorado. Doug and Martha drive. My parents got there, however. We go out there. Little Hunter Man's with us. His first time in the altitude, and doesn't do well, nor does Martha. So it was bad enough that Doug and I have to literally take Linda, Martha, and Hunter to the airport to send them home early. So Doug and I are now on our own as bachelors. I pretty much ignored my brother and parents. Hung out with Doug. So the best day when we were together was to ski Vail, and it was gonna be absolute power conditions. We walk into like, you know, where there's chaos and we're all trying to get our boots on, and I look over at Doug and his ski boot is like it's like someone took a saw and just cut the thing in half, and it's completely, it had disintegrated. He had these boots so long, and I'm just like, oh my, like, because I knew how much he loved to ski. I'm like, what are you gonna do? He's like, duct tape. I'm like, I'm thinking new ski boots. Of course he had duct tape in the ski bag. We had an amazing day skiing. I did eventually take Linda to Vail, just for the record. Like Steve said earlier, very memorable touring the Ford stamping plant. And I think 2 takeaways for me at that point. Number one, I, you know, just kind of coming out of college, I'm like, oh dear God, this is the rest of my life. Like, working, this is gonna really stink. And the other takeaway was like, I just can't believe that he has lived, you know, like worked and endured this type of environment as long as he has, which I was just so impressed about. The other cool thing I love is via Linda, when we were getting ready to get married, he, and I don't know if it was easy, he was trying to take it easy on me or himself, but he passed through Linda that, oh, by the way, Jeff doesn't have to ask me. He'll allow you to marry him. I'm like, okay. Another classic example. Memorable camping before your Bear Lake property was ready. There's a picture of Steve, me, and Doug over there having cigars. Absolute classic pic. And then Linda and I took off to Trout Lake, and I think a tornado came through. Like, of course,
yeah. Like, you know what? I think we gotta go.
And I remember actually camping inside of Bear Lake. Another memorable time at Bear Lake, snowmobiling over to our cabin in the winter, which I thought was so cool. So we borrow your friends' snowmobiles and go the back, you know, I know all the back routes and on the trails to get to Trout Lake, and you know, so we're doing great, having the time of our lives. Well, the people we borrowed the snowmobiles from failed to tell us that there were vents that you needed to open. By the time we got to the cabin, the snowmobile that Doug was on had caught fire. But we put it out with snow, and then Linda took Hunter out on the lake, which we still have pictures.
Yeah.
And then just related to the cabin, so when my grandparents passed, we took the cabin over. It needed a massive clean out. So I made the mistake, and I'm so sorry for this, Martha, of letting him know that we were cleaning the garage out of the cabin, and Doug shows up in the Aerostar van with a trailer. He was like a little kid in a candy store. Anyhow, I think there were conversations between Doug and Martha, you know, thank you so much and not so much. Many great conversations when you guys would come and stay with us in Downers Grove, both before work when I was having coffee, when I came home for lunch, after work, dueling TVs on the first floor. You were normally in the corner, and he was over on the other. And Doug, for the record, enjoyed my work stories far more than Linda. I already talked about the Corona Light. That's, you know, a classic. Lots of talks to and from sporting events with the boys, post-game analysis, ripping on refs and coaches. The villages, of course, all kinds of golf, pickleball, bocce, swimming, going to the square. And then just kind of leading to some of my last memories was when we each had our role, and when we decided it was best for you guys to be here in Tennessee. And when I drove you and Doug to Aunt Lou and Uncle Floyd's and got to hang out with all of you, that was really something to be cherished. Just a quick story before we got to, and kind of Doug always having something available for us to drink. Linda and I literally had just landed from Phoenix to Tampa, get in the driver car heading to Doug and Martha's for, you know, the operation to get you moved, and we get your panic call, Martha. You had fallen asleep for a nap. Doug wasn't home, and so thank goodness, shortly thereafter, he pulls back in the car, shows up at the house, and you're like, well, where were you? He's like, We didn't have any wine and Jeff and Linda are coming.
He wasn't driving.
Yeah, so in summary, Martha, you and Doug just raised two amazingly strong women, and I have to say that we are just so blessed for everything that you did for them, and I'm very blessed to have been part of your family as long as I have.
Good job, Doug.
I'm gonna be emotional, so.
It's okay, bud. You want me to go? Deep breaths.
Good.
In and out.
So Grandpa shaped me a lot before I was even born. I mean, oh.
It's okay. It's okay.
I don't know if you want your hug, but.
So he was born in South Bend, right? Not a Notre Dame fan at all, but I have to think that, like, because of him being there, it was the start of me liking Notre Dame so much. Always in the sports, you gotta think between my grandparents, my parents, that the sports, the engineering, the love of the Cubs, Chicagoland, right? Sorry.
Don't be sorry, honey, but it's okay.
You're good, Ethan.
So early life, I knew I was his favorite grandchild because I was
That
because I was first. I was the best looking, most likely to succeed. All right, that got me out of it. Thank you. So, like I said, the sports piece of it. Biggest memory early on, Albers, love you grandparents, we were never on time. Like, that was always a thing. Like 5:30 dinner meant 6:30. Like, and I like sports wise, I just want to be there to warm up. I didn't want to be that kid having to run in. You know, I was joking around that I had to run extra because I was late. My dad was the coach. You know, and he was the one driving me. But like so. I remember the one time, I think I was playing baseball, probably 7 or 8, that I just like, hey Grandpa, can we be early? And we got there so early, the park wasn't even open. Like we were sitting outside. And so I was just like, this is cool. Like, this is how it should be. Like, I was there, and he like even warmed up with me. I had extra glove in the bag, so he warmed up with me. So it's that stuff. I'll get back into sports in a second. Funny memory. They went on a cruise. Tornado comes through. I said, when tornadoes come through Alabama, we go in the bathroom with no windows. Grandma comes in, or Mom, you stay out there. You watch the news. You drink a beer. You pregame the tornado. And you let us know. But yeah, I just remember like he was like ready to come in and like probably put in his FM radio. I was like, nope, you stay out there. So getting into golf, didn't play golf at all. But when they moved to the Villages, 5th grade, I remember I got dropped off for 3 or 4 days. Grandpa took me a lot of golf. That's when I first fell in love with it. Went back out. But the big thing was that he didn't have sons. And I think that was his first exposure to someone getting angry at performance because he was very encouraging all the time. But like, I got pissed. Like, golf is a sport where you're not, you want to succeed and you fail most of the time. So I just remember him like having this stern talk with me after one time. He's like, we're not going to throw a tantrum if I take you out to golf. And I was just like, all right. And so that's one of the things about Grandpa was like, if Grandpa was mad at you, like you felt like, ooh, he's not going to say anything to you, he just won't talk to you. And I'm just like, ooh, he is pissed. If you didn't say thank you right at the time, usually he relayed it to Grandma, and Grandma was like, hey, you didn't say thank you to Grandma.
Yes, he did that with us. Yeah, he did that.
So the other golf piece is like, he mentioned that later in life was that we're supposed to be playing Nancy Lopez for anyone that was, used to the Villages. And I know where Nancy Lopez is. I've been there plenty of times, but he was driving And he went, I was like, hey, Grandpa, I think we're supposed to go over there. He's like, no, I think it's this way. We ended up showing up the wrong course. And he was like, I think we're supposed to go over there. He's like, we can just play this course. I was like, they know you, like, cool. So we ended up just playing that course. Pretty sure we missed the tee time. I don't know if we got charged or whatever, but I don't know how it worked. But that was just like how Grandpa was. Just go with it. Going back to, so that was the golf piece. Going back to the Bear Lake days. So first thing, counting pennies. So I don't know if anyone knows, but they used to have all the pennies. And I was the oldest, favorite, most intelligent. So I had to count all the pennies for all the other grandchildren, right? But at the end of it, it all got divvied up. Well, Grandpa would come over and slip me an extra $1 and say, you're not going to grow up to be a socialist. So, yeah, so you're going to get a So he believed in a true American. Yeah, that didn't happen, Grandpa. So just figured I could throw that in. The other piece was the building the raft. There's two versions. Alright, first version said there's a bunch of gallon jugs. We're gonna take all these gallon jugs that he happened to store. I don't know how much milk you guys were drinking, but you had like enough gallons between two people. I'm pretty sure you didn't drink milk, so I don't know what Grandpa was doing. Beer and milk, that does not sound good. So we got all these gallon jugs, and he said, all right, hey, we're gonna put this piece of plywood. We're gonna put a nice little, flag on top. We're gonna set sail on Bear Lake. Get on. I'm pretty sure there's a picture. Just going and just falling right down right away. So I don't know how old I was, but that was, failure. So then we got smarter. We said, we're going to use human engineering with an inflatable tube at the end of the day, and we're going to actually just throw the wood on top of something that already floats, and then we're going to take sail. So that was successful on that side. I will say one of his best things he ever made was the bamboo nets for us at Bear Lake, was that he had those, and then we figured out, me and him were like in the water, that you don't just go try to scoop underneath, you go over the top of them. So, this is for fish, by the way. So we were going in all of the bluegill around there and perch, we were going around and we would just go and we would just pounce on top of them. We filled up so many buckets full of these fish. And then he's just like, well, we gotta get the bass. So then there was Captain Big and Juicy, I don't know if you guys remember him, but he lived underneath the pontoon boat. Well, I'm pretty sure that I don't know who actually caught him, but someone caught him with like a Mickey Mouse rod. And it was just like, just reeling them in. But it's just the fact that the Bear Lake memories there in the summer. And then on the winter time, it was the ice skating rink. So he worked outside, initially like here's Ethan pushing snow. But he went out there and cleared a whole rink. I'm sure, you guys helped too. But like, I just remember Grandpa was just like, you go out there and you build. And then we had the, hot dogs out there and everything. And then obviously the campfires. Man in charge, making sure everything was, at ease, and then sometimes we just disappear at a time, and you're like, where's Grandpa? And he's in his shed out there just doing his thing. One of the best products he ever produced was the card holders. If anyone went into my childhood rooms, I had probably 3 or 4 card holders.
Baseball card.
Baseball, basketball, football. And it was awesome. Because he would sit it. I mean, if you go down through his cards now, he has so many cards. And it was always cool how much he was into cards with me. Like, going through all the sports, asking me stats. I mean, he didn't know probably half the guys. But just the fact that, he's show interest. And sitting, I mean, you did too, Grandma, but it's just like sitting there when I'm in the, that card store, going through hours a day, the other grandchildren, doing ours, and he was just sitting there. When we stored hours and hours through all his cards, and they, dime per card or whatever. But, I don't know where I still have my cards, obviously, but it was just, most of my walls are decorated by him. I still have all my pennants. He had all the really cool sports pennants. So it's still in my room. Now Megan's guest bedroom. But yeah, it's there. So then, sorry, I'm going long, but who cares? So high school football games. coming to the games, Uncle Jeff mentioned it, giving a dissertation about the game, whether good, bad, or indifferent, right? He was, he would just give his quick synopsis, and that was it. He just said, this is how I feel about it. And I was just like, I appreciate that, Grandpa. Especially when they were gone. Like, you didn't want your opinion unless you asked for it, so you had to make sure you asked. Like, what was your thoughts on that? Then getting into I think college was fun too, because they would watch all my games. Aunt Lynn, Uncle Floyd too, and they would always give, asking hey, does Coach not like you? Yes, that's correct. It seems every time you go out there, you make plays and he takes you out. Yes, that's correct. Was he in the Napoleon complex? Yes. So in football, but the cool part about it was I graduated senior year. We missed the playoffs in the conference championship, whatever. And then we went to Thanksgiving, and North Central had me playing playoffs that year at home. And it was really cool to go back to his alma mater to see them play after all the years of him support. So, sorry.
That's really cool.
Other thing, obviously, forward getting my truck, it was, something I can tell you're just proud of that he. I've done a lot with it.
Yeah.
And you picked up more trucks.
And then moving him and Grandma from Florida, that was a wild experience. We show up, we can't go over there, or you guys get moved out by, you guys leave. But then it was crazy going through all this stuff. Like you said, detailed, and I don't know where I was going with that. It's just a lot of history.
Yeah, it was.
And he kept everything.
Yeah. Including some funny stuff. I'll tell at the campfire or whatever.
He said he saw some funny stuff.
Okay.
Dad catch you up, it was an interesting.
Yeah. And then seeing him at the Glendale, even at his last days, it was, as long as he said, hey, it's Ethan, he was excited, and I always remember his handshakes, always that was not a big hugger, but always a privilege. And then thanks, Grandma, for reminding me for that last meal.
Oh, you're welcome. That was special.
Yeah. And he
Glad
Yeah.
you went.
Yeah, it was a surprise, just for context. Grandma texted me on a Sunday morning, said, hey, you want to go up for lunch? Thank you for, doing it.
And Dad was pretty with it for lunch.
Yeah.
I always enjoyed the males more than the females.
Yeah.
They had a conversation.
It's like a
Yeah.
month.
Yeah, and then of course he just had ice cream.
Yeah.
But then I ate his second meal for him. But
And didn't get charged.
and the last thing I'll leave it with is that, we talk about his laugh, but I always said it's if you can make Grandpa laugh, it was funny. It was actually funny. Even his last days when I would joke around about getting him a Mustang, right? I still own him a Mustang. But if you can make him laugh, is that really so I have a lot of good memories.
Thank you. Great.
Thank you.
Someone else want to go?
No.
It's your table, so I can wait.
There's no kids riding back.
Okay. Oh man, Ethan got me emotional.
That's okay.
Let's go
I'm
there.
gonna try not to cry, but there are many
Wait a
memories.
minute, time for Floyd's bill.
Do we need a bathroom break?
I need a quick.
You need some water. Did you want a cookie? You want a cookie? Here, we can pass the tray around.
Cookies for everyone.
Cookie. Papa Doug loved cookies. Even loved that we're having
Hey,
a
Blake.
cookie break. What? It's all cookie? It's all thank you. There's all my favorite chips away on the counter.
Intermission. Oh, okay.
Instead of passing the offering plate, we do it.
There's mini chocolate chips and big M&Ms. Ooh, sorry, I moved too fast. Miriam? You're welcome. Grandma? Jeff?
I'm good, thank you.
Mom? Aunt Linda? Haley? Oh, I'm sorry. Do you want like this chunk right here? Hunter will.
He woke up because of the cookies.
I'm glad they're getting me. Oh, here. I'm coming. Do you want one of the big M&M's one? There's one that's not broken.
Excuse me, or? Yeah. The water fee.
Miriam never.
Yeah.
Okay, is everyone back?
Well, I'll find my phone eventually.
Where's Blake at? Blake is coming short.
Did you need something, Kristen, for her? No. Are you sure? Okay.
Oh, jeez. You could just start.
Okay, that's fine. I'm fine to start. Okay. There are many memories I could share about my papa, but only one thing really feels like us. My papa and I had a different language. We spoke through the art of running. I'm convinced I got my passion and enthusiasm for the sport from him, although I never got to see the legend in action. I like to imagine we had a similar running face or form, as you can see on the picture. I probably looked like that a lot. There's a good picture of him running over there. But in reality, he was probably much more graceful than I am. There's nothing more special than knowing that your grandpa is proud of you, and I felt his pride when I ran. He liked to clip my times from the newspaper, keep track of all my races. He traveled all over the state of Florida to watch me compete and woke up early for 6 or 7 a.m. race start times. I still remember coming around the corner through the woods and seeing him standing there, usually in a red straw hat with a red polo, and tan shorts with socks way too high. His stopwatch draped around his neck, calling out splits and beaming with a "Go Haley." It's a core memory for me. When I would visit him in the villages, he would bike alongside me while I would go for a morning run. And when I committed to Northwestern, he was the first person I wanted to tell. Most of my interactions with him involved a debrief on what races we've been watching lately, or how our favorite runner, Jenny Simpson, had been doing. I loved our language. It was something I could always count on. I always dreamed of taking him to Haywood Field in Eugene, Oregon to watch the Olympic trials. It's something we talked about together. Now I'll have to go and trust that he's there in spirit. All of this running joy taught me a few things about Papa Doug. He's consistent and a hard worker with an unmatched work ethic. He's faithful and he loves me, that I knew for sure. I'm praying one of my boys will carry on Papa Doug's running legacy. I know they are too young to remember him, but I will be sure to tell them all about the incredible Gigi Doug who loved him very much. I'm super thankful I got to see him right after he passed away. And I'll tell you, he didn't look a day older than when I remembered him growing up. But that's my memory.
Good job. Great job, kids. That was beautiful. So I'm just going off the dome here. I'm gonna keep it pretty quick and light. My first memory of Grandpa Doug, Blake and I flew down to the villages, just the two of us as kids. The villages was always a blast. You know, whether it's just Blake and I or with the whole Albers gang, we always tore it up there, and it was such a great place. But Grandpa Doug took Blake and I with Grandma Martha to a place called Nancy Lopez. Ethan mentioned that earlier. And since Grandpa Doug golfed there, he belonged to that country club, but Grandma Martha didn't. So Grandpa's like, yeah, let's go to the pool. So we get to Nancy Lopez, about to get into the pool, and it said members only and they're visitors. So Grandpa Doug, Blake, and I were able to get past this red rope to go swimming. Yeah. Blake and I got in the pool. Grandpa Doug sat in a chair, and then Grandma Martha was just stuck behind the rope.
And I remember.
I'm sorry, Grandma, but that was funny as
And I had like my goggles on and like the pool, and I look over, it's like a railing, and it's Grandma Martha's just like.
Grandma Martha, bless her
She's
heart,
shaking
she
her
just stood
head.
there by herself, and Doug was doing his own thing. This time.
She's like watching us swim.
So that was such a good memory. All the times at Bear Lake with him and the cousins, you know, learning how to ice skate, you know, tubing and all that outdoor activity. And then my most recent memory, I came out here in April for a bachelor party and came in a day or two early to see Grandpa at the Clarendale. And of course, shout out to Uncle Steve for the photo. You know, I had to wear the shirt going in the Clarendale. And went into the dining room. He instantly saw me, chuckled, and said, "Oh, that's me." Like, he still has it. So we had a great meal together too. And then, for whatever reason, the waitress asked for dessert. I was like, "For lunch? This place has it all." You know. So Grandpa Doug got his ice cream, and I joined him. And yeah, we both finished it completely. But I mean, at the end of the day, the guy just had a killer sense of humor, especially when you really got to know him and talk to him one-on-one. And he also beat to his own drum. You know, I feel like he just truly didn't care what other people thought, which I feel like we can all take into our own lives. So I'm just happy he's at peace. You know, he's definitely in a better place. And yeah, I'll forever cherish all those memories.
Okay, mine's not super organized either, so I'm just gonna share some memories I have, slash things that Papa taught me. So one of them is to never pass up a sweet. We were there, we visited my grandma and grandpa for spring break, freshman year, Hallie and I, and we got a key lime pie, and Hallie and I each had a slice, and we put it up in the fridge, and the next day at lunch we're like, let's have another slice. And the whole pie was gone, because Papa got a hold of it. This has always just stuck with me, the way that Papa Doug took care of you, Grandma, and all these years. It just made me look for that in my partner and just want to be there for somebody no matter what they need, and orange juice and vinegar and Ritz crackers, all of that. Lots of shuffleboard, how to drive a golf cart, so many sunset golf cart rides. Working hard and staying consistent, that'll pay off when you get to retire. The importance of a good map. You drew us a lot of maps when I could finally drive around and you could tell me this is how you're gonna get to Brewster's, or this is how you're gonna go here. Also at Bear Lake, finding fish on top of the ice. I don't know why, but that always stuck with me.
And how do they get there, Megan? Because there's ice fishing going on the lake.
Yeah,
right?
so I would find fish on top of the lake, and for some reason I just assumed that the ice froze and they didn't make it. I'd just be swimming around and then one of my favorite memories, after the Cubs won the World Series, it was like 2 a.m. because of the rain delays and everything. And we FaceTimed Papa Doug and he was still up. And we were like, Dad, we want to stay loyal to a team. So. And lastly, I just believe in signs. So I say I'll see Papa Doug in the rainbows and the sunsets and the bluebird. So.
All right. Saving the best for last. The mild one. All right. Pull on my notes. So as we all said, he's a man of few words. And for some reason, like every time he came into town to like visit us, I'm like, what question should I like ask him? So he just goes on and on. So my go-to question was, how about those Cubs, Grandpa Doug? He was just, Jadobe, Derek Lee, Chris Bryant's on the decline. I'm like, oh. He's on the chair, I'm on the couch. So, he would just go on and on though. And the guy was always mellow. But it was the NBA playoffs, 2009. Celtics at Bulls. And I have never seen someone like stand out of like their chair during like these games. We were just watching, there's like 2 minutes left in like the fourth, like bad call. Doc Rivers gets on the screen, he gets up, he goes, "Sit down, Doc!" Like yells, like loud. And I kid you not, that was the first time I saw him like yell. And I just looked at him, I was like, I wasn't even watching the game for like a minute, so I'm like, you good? And then it was Bulls at Heat in 2011. And I got mad. I threw like my Wade Brown jersey outside, like in like the snow. And it was like vice versa. He was staring at me after. He was just like, "You good, Blake? You good?" Another story. So it was during one of my basketball games. Never looked in the stands. It's like one of like my rules. But I got subbed out. I like fouled like a guy. I get subbed out. I sit out on the bench. My good friend and teammate Patrick. He goes like, "Who's that?" And we all know Doug hates reps, no matter what sport. And I look up into like the stands. He's yapping, and Hunter's mouth's just like going like this, just breaking down what happened. Hunter's just like, like he did not want to look at him. He's like, "This rep is outrageous." Just going on and on. So, what's the next story? I always remember like, after like any game, I would play basketball, soccer, football. If he was in attendance after every game, he would always pat me on the back like 3 times. He's like, "Good job," like no matter what. Then he would probably go like watch tennis or something after like the TV. It's just like, but he was always there for me. So and then so I brought this in. So this was his last gift to me before he passed away. You want to pass this around? Has a lot of pins on it. He loves the Olympics. He loves watching all those sports, especially tennis. So that was his last gift to me, and I keep that on a shelf in like my room. And anytime like one of like my friends like mentions like the hat, they go like, "What's that hat?" I'm like, "That's my grandpa." They go like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "That's my grandpa." That's all I have to say. And they go like, "Oh, okay." So every time I look at that hat, I think about him. It's in my room on the shelf. So, and then let's see here. And Grandma, we always have your back, no matter what. If you need to go to the doctors, I'll fly in and I'll drive you there. Just want to say that. But I'm with this. This is pretty interesting. So, it was probably like a week or so after he passed. I try to go to church every Sunday. I'm big on church. It makes me feel great. My pastor Jason had this message, and he ended it with the like friends, because I've lost friends in high school, college, all that stuff. And he ended it with the people that you lose are gonna live through you. So it was interesting. A few days after that, I was with my mom, and I told her that. And 5 minutes goes by, and she says something. She's like, "Oh, that would be something Doug would say." So, ever since I heard that message, that's how I'm gonna like live with the people that I lose. So, and that's all I have. So.
Okay. Some of you know I like to write little ditties, so this is very short. The Ulrich clan was just 5 strong until Doug Knuckles came along. He became part of our family tree, and since then we've added 23. Doug was with us all these years through all the joys and all the tears. Family gatherings, he was always there. We have so many memories to share. Tennis, golf, skiing, and riding a bike. These were all the things he sure did like. For the Bears and the Cubs, he sure did cheer, always with an ice cold beer. His life we're here to celebrate because we all think he's great. We know you're watching from above, so we send you off with a warm welcome.
Good job, Lou. That was great.
That was cute. Did you want to talk, Larry?
Yeah. I don't know whether you know this, but I believe, other than Martha, I know Doug the longest. Sorry. Because Martha, if you don't know, always had me because she was expected to take care of me, I think. And I remember the day I remember two things in specific. I think when I told Martha I was going to remember early memories, she wasn't sure I should remember some of them.
Make sure Ethan's still videoing it.
So I've lost my notes, but I'm not going to worry about it. I'm kind of crying.
Do you want me to find him? We'll help.
I'll find him eventually. My 9-year-old brain, I think it was 9, wasn't I? I was 8 or 9. Sort of couldn't figure out why my sister would trade in a guy with a white convertible with red vinyl interior for a guy who rode a 3-speed bike and had a broken down Model A with chicken wire inside. I mean, is that true? He would, and with braces. Deference to David. Because Doug was 21 years old wearing braces because that was the first opportunity he had. He took, if you don't know, he would sometimes, I remember being when you met your in-laws for the first time I was there. Yeah. And then one night, Doug decided that they wanted to go see the Satins play at Sprovier's in Lisle. Except Martha was babysitting me because my parents were at a party. And they took me along. Doug decided to take me along. Except Mrs. Podgent was not very happy that I was there. And if you don't know it, guess who was appalled when Mrs. Podgent came up and said I shouldn't be there? Poor Martha, who was about ready to crawl under the table. But she saw something in Doug, and I've grown to appreciate him over those years, even though he didn't have a convertible. The last, I'm going to say this coming down here, was important because every time I came, I had something to talk to Doug about because he remembered everything about Naperville. And I'm the only other person that knows anything about Naperville. And we would come down here and I'd say, Bud Burger had died. And I said, and he and I talked about Bud Burger. Bud Burger, if you don't know, where Nobody knows, knows. Was his track coach.
Oh, okay. There you go.
But I knew Bud because I went there to school. I was not on the track team of the cross country. We can all assure I was not. But Doug shared a lot of those things. The other thing I remember sharing with him is I had a Facebook post from one of my friends who I haven't seen in 60 or 55 years who said, do you remember playing Al Capone in Doug's Model A in the driveway? Because remember, it sat in Mom and Dad's driveway for quite a while when it didn't run. And we played in it, and I came down and told Doug that the first time I came down after you moved into Clarendale, and he knew exactly who I was talking about. And remembered us playing in it, and he said it was all right to play in there. So by that point, we had a few memories the other day that one is Floyd, Doug, and I skateboarding on the hill on Hillside Road while Mary Lou sat at home with a body cast on. And I don't know where you were, but and Floyd fell in his suit and tore his pants. But they wanted to try skateboards because they had just been invented. Those who don't know, it was just the beginning of skateboards in 1965, April 1965, Easter Sunday. And I think that's probably enough memories of that, except for the party, because I think that's when Doug first knew of you, was the party on Slade Street. That, if you don't know, it was a little raucous. Martha was hosting it, I guess. Wendell Sargent was there playing bridge in the living room with my parents drinking beer. And the next morning I woke up with Sandy Sanborn's pipe vodka in my shoes, in my bedroom, with the mark where, so that he knew who, if anyone was drinking it. He was another friend of theirs. And I didn't understand. I was 8. And I shouldn't have been seeing these things. And then someone's wallet was in the Splibition, 4 doors down, and brought it down because the party had been kind of wild. And my parents just sat there in the living room and drank beer. These are your great-grandparents.
Larry, by that time they were drinking scotch.
No, they were still drinking beer. She hadn't gone on a diet yet. That was later. But Doug showed up at that party because he had heard of her.
He had heard of Martha.
He knew about this girl that had moved from New York. He's told me this story. And he knew what was going on, but I don't think that you had known, you didn't really know each other. And he was there that night, and I didn't realize it till years later. Doug also was a very level force. Martha and I have emotions, in case you haven't noticed. And if Martha and I ever had emotions, Doug was a calming influence, always. And I'm composed, and I spent a lot of time thinking about what I would say. And I came across this, and I'm going to say it. He had 6 characteristics of a godly father. He loves his family, from Ephesians 5:25. He leads his family. Doug led his family, from Joshua 24. He provided for his family, and provided for you, like someone said, because that was from Philippians. And he imparted wisdom. We've heard a lot of that today. He provided correction, because he did correct. And he demonstrated forgiveness. And from the parable of the prodigal son, whenever there was a need for forgiveness, he was the one that offered it. And those are the Doug I remember. That's probably as long as Martha's remembered that. And I don't think anybody else can say that. Because no one else was the bratty little 8-year-old.
I just have to say, I think I was Ethan before Ethan. So I was the boy. I was the first boy with all these girls. So I remember, my dad is not that athletic, if you don't know that. And I remember every time that we would go to your house, your dad would always play catch with me. I remember being out there with Floyd and Doug being the umpire. I was pitching, and he had the bases, all of that. And the basketball hoop, I remember that.
Yeah.
A couple things that I really remember are after you guys were in college, I remember being at Mary Lou Floyd's, and Doug and Martha came, and we were living, I don't know if we lived in New Hampshire yet, but Doug, Floyd, I don't remember if you had just added onto your driveway. I think it was when you added onto your driveway.
This was our 25th wedding anniversary.
It was the year after we moved.
And he plowed right into Floyd's mailbox. knocked it over, and we spent the next day having to fix the mailbox. So it was me and Floyd and Doug having to fix the mailbox. And I remember it was right around my 21st birthday, and we went up to Bear Lake, and Miriam was there, and we went cross-country skiing and all of that. The last time I saw Doug, David and I played golf with him. And we were in Florida, and
Red shirt, blue
it
pants.
was. But you said, Doug doesn't care about, he's going to just hit whatever ball. And that day, he didn't care where he was driving the cart. It was wet. He got yelled at by the starter. He didn't care. So I was glad that David had the opportunity to do that as well. So the last memory that I have, and probably, I don't know if you guys remember it, but it was me and Kristen and the 4 of us. We went to a Cubs game, and I don't know, I was 10 maybe. And you had just gotten the Aerostar van.
Okay.
And in the back of the van, you had these controls for the radios, the first time they were in the back. And I don't remember who it was one of us. We were playing with the radio, and your dad could not figure out who was playing with the radio. Yelling and said, "What's wrong with the radio?" And he was switching, and we just kept hitting the button in the back. And I don't know when. I think I was probably 10. So, but that's just a memory that I remember. So yeah. So Ethan, I was you before you. So sorry. I carried off some. Thanks.
There aren't any formal presentations. There's always the bonfire, campfire time. We can casually share funny stories, right?
I like all the flannel shirts.
What happened?
Yes.
Little beard.
Did you just wound up in the queue, right?
Yeah, that's right, that's right, yeah. Kristen, you had a memory.
Oh, I have one distinct memory of going to Bear Lake when I was like 15 or 16 and learning how to tube and water ski. And I was so eager to just get in there and go that I jumped into the lake with my glasses on. And I went to the bottom, and I had to spend the rest of my time up there with my mom's sunglasses on because I couldn't see anything. And they had to go to some eye doctor in Hazelhurst to get the tint taken out of them. I was mortified because I was 15. But for Christmas that year, Doug bought me like a chain.
Oh. Yeah, he always wore that.
Yeah. Such high style.
Yeah.
Floating ones that had like foam on them.
When we went and visited you, Hunter and I, when we first started dating, we found out that our grandparents lived like really close to each other, which was kind of a cool bonding experience. And so we planned a trip to visit the grandparents, and we stayed at my grandma's for a couple nights, and then with Hunter's grandparents for a couple nights. And I remember we went out to lunch. My aunt and uncle also used to live up there as well, or down there. And so we went out to lunch, and we walk in, and my Uncle Fred was there, who also lived in Naperville, and Grandpa Doug knew my Uncle Fred, so like we walked in and he's like, "Oh my gosh, you're Fred Willman. You wrote the book on Naperville. I saw your presentation." And I was like, "My uncle wrote a book on Naperville?" And I had no idea, and he was acting like my uncle was some like celebrity like, author, and they were just bonding over Naperville that entire lunch. And my Uncle Fred passed away a couple months ago as well, and I know they're just up there bonding over Naperville.
That's so funny.
Just like in like their chairs, Naperville.
Well, thanks everybody. I know this went a little longer than we anticipated. We didn't expect to go for 90 minutes. But we wanted to end on a real positive note. As you all know, that Dad was a lifelong Cubs fan. In fact, he met Ernie Banks in Naperville at a restaurant. I'm not sure what year it was, but that was very exciting for him, and I believe he got his autograph from Ernie Banks. But
He got it for me too.
Oh, he got it for you too.
You got it, me.
That same time. You got it for me first, Ethan.
And like Megan had mentioned, when they won the World Series in 2016, he was pretty excited. So there's a ball cap over there that we actually got for him for the World Series championship. But he loved the Cubs. He was a dyer, let's just say that, no matter whether they were winning or losing. So we have our final song here to end on a positive note, and we'll see you sometime soon, Dad. We know you're looking down at us.
Doggy Frosh! Let me hear you!
1, 2, 3. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. I don't care if I ever get Thank you for traveling, and we have what we call Camping Yonis from Chicago, the couple's from Chicago, but we've got Italian beef and Italian sausage and masticholi that we'll get out here for you guys to eat and drink and be merry, and maybe we'll do a bonfire later if anybody's still around, or maybe can stand it.
And the girl that checks me out, I just realized this now. Of course, I go on there and I'm like, I'm from Chicago. And the girl checking me out is from Naperville. True story.
That was a Doug wink.
The prophecy has been